What up, guys? So, I wanted to make more of a human video showing kind of sympathy for Nick Diaz. Now, to a lot of people, that's going to sound obscene. I've already read some comments on other videos, talking about, how he's made his own decisions in life. And you know what? At a certain point, you say, yeah, no, he walked the path that was laid out for him. But the path that was laid out for him is a very special one that you can't really put yourself in the shoes of for the most part, unless you've actually walked it. Or even if you can, you could only try to empathize with what it is, because people see the massive fight career and all the things, but they don't realize that there is a tax to MMA and being a high-level fighter and all the surgeries and all the weight cuts and all the training camps that they have to, wear and tear on the body. You get YouTube channels and YouTube subs and all these cultural things that could help you, even if you think the UFC is not paying you enough. But at the end of the day, competing in combat sports, whether it's MMA, BJJ, judo, anything like that, is going to have some sort of tax down the line depending on how you go about it. And to be a professional fighter, there's really only so many ways you could be about it. You can't really be moderate with that stuff. You can't really be moderate and do it as a hobby. If you want to do it professionally, you have to be all in. You have to make the sacrifice, and you have to be asking yourself the constant question, is this going to be worth anything? And even if it is, you could take it in the case of like Stephan Bonner, who had a legendary fight career, but now look at him now and how his story ended. So when you see someone like Nick Diaz in the predicament he's in and how he's backed out of another fight and he's in cahoots because of the 5-year layoff that shouldn't have even been to begin with, you could tell the guy has had a very bittersweet storyline to him. So when you look at him now, we never thought we'd see him in this state 20 years ago when he was like the guy in Strikeforce, when he was the guy facing George St. Pierre, when he was GSP's top rival, when he was the antithesis to the good boy that GSP was. Not a lot of people saw that coming. Just like not a lot of people saw Stephan Bonner's career coming. You look at a lot of these professional fighters, look at their prime years, and then fast forward. A lot of them are on, painkillers or something like that because their body has taken a lot of wear and tear. And I think it's one of the prices that people pay. Now, am I saying that that they're completely void of any responsibility for their choices in life or the career that they chose to do? Because there was some payback for that stuff. They got a lot of money from it. They got sponsorship, They got brand deals, a lot of good stuff. But nothing good is going to be free. You get what you pay for, whether you're paying for it in money or, in this case, your body giving up and you probably needing to take some extra stuff just to kind of like keep the pain at bay. And this is actually a question that should probably be asked for anyone who wants to try a career in professional fighting, because I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but you got to weigh out the cons and the pros. You got to ask yourself, is this something I just want to do as a hobby or for my own personal development? Or do I want to go full blaze and go with the best of the best? Because the rise and fall of professional fighters comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And Nick's is probably the most extreme. And it's kind of hard to watch right now because he was one of the most iconic fighters back in the old days of MMA and cage fighting and all these things. Like, he was the bad boy. And if you look at his background and where he comes from, it was kind of the only way that best fit him to where he could raise his standard of living or get himself out of some stuff. And yeah, he's done meet and greets and all that stuff, fan meetups, all that. And he did come back to the UFC to fight Robbie Lawler a second time. And when he entered the arena, man, people wanted to see. People loved what they had going for him. Like, people were excited to see him back in the octagon, but then we saw kind of a little bit of older Nick Diaz that wasn't really the same. The output was, but like I said before, the power wasn't anymore. And I really don't know how else to say except for talking in circles, but the bill comes due eventually. And whether you think that the bill is a righteous, payment that he owes, or you think that, maybe he didn't know it was going to get this extreme, or, because that's something that we do in life. regardless if we're professional fighters, firemen, office people, living in cubicles, becoming software developers, we're always going to have these consequences to every choice we have in life that we didn't foresee down the line or we didn't expect. Some, obviously we could, but there's stuff in life that just kind of comes out of the blue with the decisions we make that come back to kind of look us in the eyes or look us in the face. And it's just one of those unfortunate things with all sorts of walks of life. But I think that's the thing on why I'm saying I'm not so adamant to judge Nick Diaz, because I know I got accused of sugarcoating what he's going through. The only reason I feel like I sugarcoat it or try to show respect isn't just because I try to at least have some sort of professionalism to how I present my videos, because we all talk about the stats here and, we all try to have as much fun or crack as many jokes as we can or try to call it as it is. But, sometimes a lot of the fans like to get hyper judgmental, like they're the ones who are in there or, oh, they would have done something different in that fight. Hate to break it to you, but I guarantee you probably wouldn't have. It's easy for you to force yourself into the shoes of these fighters when I don't think you'd want to be walking to them. I like what Nick Diaz said in his interview when he was asked, "Are you excited for this fight?" And that answer he gave, "What makes you think I'm excited?" You're going in there to face another just trained assassin that a lot of people are going to be cheering. You're entertaining people and you're getting paid, but you're still going in to basically be a modern day gladiator, regardless of whether the path of life picked you or not. So for me, it's almost like I appreciate what it is that they do to the point where I will always wish them well, whether their fight career ends early or they end it in the future, or they choose to give up MMA and do something a little business related because they know they can't do it forever. I just want you to know that I can't really hyper judge anything that these fighters, and especially when they're in like a predicament like this that seems way worse than we ever thought possible. I can't even judge. All I could do is wish someone like Nick Diaz, regardless of the choices he's made in life or the trials and tribulations he's had to overcome, I can only wish him well. So that's what I got to say. Nick Diaz, if you ever watch this on the off chance, just know I'm in your corner, because as someone who appreciates the old time of the MMA world and Strikeforce and the UFC, GSP versus Diaz, even though I wasn't really a big fan of the sport until around the time of UFC 223, I was just kind of a guy that was watching sports, and then I found a sport that inspired me to do some stuff in my life that really kind of got it on a better path. Not exactly the ultimate success story, but I could look back at those times when I started watching UFC versus now, where now it's a staple in my life to the point where it's like, you know what? I owe it to that, where it's like that kind of helped inspire me. Because if you could see guys doing that on TV and giving each other punishment, everything else in life just seems a little bit easier. So Nick Diaz, thank you very much for the inspiration, even though I was late to the party on a level, but you paved the way for what the UFC is today. And I can only wish you the best with whatever it is you're dealing with. Peace out.